Hi, and welcome to Cynthia Peace Talks. I'm excited today to share with us about peace for our beautiful nation. I mean, it's an election year, and every election has always come with uncertainty and anxiety, and unfortunately, sometimes violence. So, when we talk of peace, that state of calmness, a state of law and order, we do not know how much we rely on peace to go on about our daily activities. When we allow our children to go to school and believe that they'll come back home, when we go to work and believe that we'll go and come back safely, we so much rely on that. So we should never take it for granted. If we would put ourselves in situations like Ukraine and all other countries, and even our sister country, DRC, would find that what we have is so precious and valuable and is worth nurturing, is worth keeping, is worth fighting for. Now, when we talk about peace, we are not necessarily looking at the absence of violence. And social scientists have come up with concepts of negative peace and positive peace. But the lack of violence does not necessarily mean that there is peace. And I like to paint two pictures of two different situations that actually demonstrate that the lack of violence does not necessarily mean that there is peace in a nation. And why am I doing this? Just to demonstrate to us that we have to build in ourselves attitudes that no matter the situations that surround us, that we still have a state of peace. Now let's look at our sister country, DRC, that has just joined the East African community. And this country, number one, has massive natural resources, copper, gold, cobalt, and all other natural resources. It has the world's second largest river. So we would expect that this should be actually the richest country. However, if you look at DRC, it has the world's poorest people. And why is this? And we all know the history of DRC, marred with armed conflicts, rebel activities, and all kinds of violence. And this is what keeps the nation from going forward. Now let's look at another picture. Let's look at Germany after the Second World War. So the US and its allies came together with the Soviet Union against Germany. But they couldn't agree, so Germany was separated. We had East Germany under the control of the Soviet Union and Western Germany under the control of US, France, and Britain. So these two had different ideologies: communism for the Soviet Union and capitalism for the US and its allies. So they couldn't agree at all, and they had to divide Germany into East and West, and therefore the Soviet Union actually built the Berlin Wall to separate East and West Germany. Unfortunately, the people in East Germany, they felt oppressed. They felt their nation was lacking the freedom of press, was lacking freedom of movement, and they were always trying to cross over to West Germany. Why? They felt it had better standards of living. They felt it had better opportunities. The community was more affluent there. And so they always wanted to cross over to Western Germany. So clearly there's no war happening at this time, other than from one or two cases of violence. But then at the same time, people were not peaceful in Eastern Germany. And so what does this picture create? That the absence of violence or war does not necessarily mean that people are at peace. So that brings us to the need to create structures that enable us to have sustainable peace. And definitely these have to come from the government, have to come from policies and all that. But today I'd like to just address the aspect of our social attitudes, creating a culture of peace in our nation. And that's something you can do. That is something I can do. That is something I can enforce wherever I am. That is something that I can build in the coming generations. So when we talk of a culture of peace, what really are we talking about? It is the attitudes that we have. And which attitudes are these? Number one, an attitude of equality. And this is always all overlooked, or we as human beings find ourselves, overlooking and not even realizing that we actually don't value equality, or we don't see people the same way as we see ourselves. Now, what causes us to see this? It's because of the experiences we've had in the past. It's because of situations that we have faced where people have lorded over us. But I would really encourage us to look at equality and start having an attitude of everybody is important, whether male or female, regardless of gender, regardless of ethnicity, that we are all equal, we are all human beings, regardless of our color, and that we are all important, and we all have a purpose and something to bring to this world. And I feel that's very critical in developing an attitude of peace. So if I believe that you are equal to me, then I will not dominate over you. I will not try to oppress you, but I'll be able to understand your needs and safeguard your interests. So the second attitude that is so critical in ensuring a culture of peace is accepting diversity. That is being able to understand people who are different from ourselves. And if we were to just have a snippet of our heart, just moments of reflection, you would actually find that you really don't or really struggle to accept something different from who you are. But it takes yourself to catch yourself not accepting somebody who's different from you, or behaviors or cultures, just social cultures that are different from yours. So it's important to always reflect and ask ourselves, why is it that I don't like that culture? Why is it that I don't like that person from a different group from mine? And that will always give you a moment to understand that you're also different from them, and they will also find it difficult to understand what is your culture and what are your beliefs. And so accepting diversity is very important, that we can't all be the same, but that we are all important, and that diversity has some beauty in it. Now, the last attitude that is so important is disregarding violence as a means of conflict resolution. And I was just thinking about violence, and it's so easy actually to resort to violence because you want to fight it out, you want to, solve it right here and then. But the truth is that you never really get to solve it by fighting. You still have to come back again and resolve the differences by sitting down to talk and sitting down to agree on a matter. So that means that we end up being more hurt. We end up losing. We end up losing businesses. We end up losing relationships. So it's important that we never resort to violence. And so I'm urging us that we be the ones to foster, we be the ones to encourage people to live peacefully. We be the ones to safeguard the interests of one another. We be the ones to accept the differences that we have, the different groups, the different tribes, all differences that we have, and we be the ones to understand that all human beings are equal, all human beings are important, whether they be of different gender or whatever differences that we would have, that we are all equal and important. So I'm counting on you to keep peace for our nation now and going forward, and you can also count on me. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. See you next time.